Hey everyone, welcome to Film Rush. This is a weekly podcast where two cousins get together and talk about movies. My name is Logan Vaughn, and joining me today is my cousin John.
Hey everyone, I'm John Vaughn. Thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Welcome to Film Rush.
Welcome back to the podcast, everyone, where we review movies and TV on streaming. This is me in the audio flesh, John, and over there, through my screen and in your microphone, is Logan. Logan, how are you doing today?
Everyone, hope you have had a good weekend and a good start to your week. I'm excited to get into a couple of movies. We got some Christmas stuff lined up. We're going to talk about the new episode of The Mandalorian. What else is in the agenda for today? You get to talk about From Up on Poppy Hill, and I get to talk about White Christmas at the end when we get to assignments. That seems like it'll be a fun conversation to me.
I think it'll be a good back and forth. I'm pretty excited about this one. I have something that I wasn't expecting, two things actually I wasn't expecting to talk about that I had watched recently that both are, I'm excited to get into. And then another one that I was expecting and that I regretted forcing myself to do immediately, but we'll get to that whenever we get there. So I guess we can, if we want, to get into movies. Logan, do you want to start on yours? I have technically 2 titles, technically 3 in my recommend. Do you want me to take one of those out first, like a sniper, and then move over to yours?
Yeah, let's go for it, because I've only got one movie in the movie pile this week, and frankly, it's not something I've seen recently. It's just something that I want to spotlight. So I think you can go first.
All right, cool. So we'll start on, let's start on the unique title because the others are related to each other. So we'll start on one called The Lost City of Z on Amazon. This is the Prime Video app. If you are subscribed to that streaming service, you can watch it there. It stars Charlie Hunnam, Robert Pattinson, and to my surprise, Tom Holland. I hadn't looked up the cast list when I clicked on this. The impulse to...
Those are 3 pretty good names.
Yeah. The only one I don't really know is the director, by the name of James Gray. He's done Ad Astra since... and The Immigrant.
I still haven't seen Ad Astra.
2 Lovers. I've seen some of Ad Astra. I've not finished it. It's on my list to watch for the podcast sometime.
Same.
Well,
actually, no, it's not on my list, but it is on yours.
So The Lost City of Z, why did I want to watch this? Well, back in 2016, the trailers came out for it, and I'm a Charlie Hunnam fan. I've watched all of Sons of Anarchy. I love Pacific Rim. I loved him in The Gentleman, King Arthur, both Guy Ritchie movies. I'm a Charlie Hunnam enthusiast. And so I was like, you know what? This looks like a passion project of his almost. So let's check this out. I was anticipating the simplest of premises, which is what the trailer gives. It's this man who goes out into the jungle, the Amazon specifically, to find a lost city. I figured the whole movie would be his one expedition to find the lost city. Well, what actually happens is we open up on a military man, being honored for a hunt, a successful group hunt he just did. And he's not really looked highly upon in society. He's a young major. He doesn't have any real medals or accommodations. Apparently his family has a bad reputation. His dad was a drunk or something. And so he's offered this chance to go to the Amazon as a map charter maker guy, basically just a surveyor is what they call it. And to find the origin of, I think, the Amazon River, find where it starts was the goal, because the maps are blank of this area of South America. So he goes in and he ends up finding what he thinks is evidence of a lost city. They're kind of tied up with the idea of El Dorado. Was it this lost city of gold, or is it a different city? He's convinced. People think he's crazy. There's nothing that deep into the jungle. People die in the jungle. No one lives in the jungle. He ends up becoming quite obsessed with finding it and ends up sacrificing years of time with his family, journeying into this jungle with Robert Pattinson as his partner in crime, and eventually he ends up taking multiple trips, and he ends up having a tumultuous relationship with his 3 children and his wife, with big ups and big downs. And the ending of the movie is quite interpretative. Interpretative? Is that a word?
Open to interpretation. Basically, it's the easy way out.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at. Because this, for all of the air I'm putting into this explanation, it's based on historical events. I did not know this going into it. It's a Percival Fawcett was a real man in the early 1900s up through the 1930s. And he did go into the Amazon and was convinced he would find a city there. Or at least he was convinced that he needed to journey in there. And no one knows what happened to him. I guess spoilers, but it's based on a historical event, so it's kind of hard to spoil that. Based on an intriguing tale of an adventurer, and that's who Charlie Hunnam is playing as. And Tom Holland is his son, Jack Fawcett. Robert Pattinson, I said, plays his partner in crime named Henry Costin. Again, I like Robert Pattinson. I've been slowly more and more becoming a fan of Robert Pattinson the more I've seen him in movies. So I'm down with that. Charlie Hunnam did a good job here. This ends up being a big movie, dude. I thought this was going to be a one expedition into a jungle. This ends up being like...
Oh, really?
It's an epic. And it also has like intense scenes of World War One.
Huh.
Because he ends up fighting in World War One.
Yeah, that's I definitely not the perception that I had of this movie. I haven't seen it, but that's not at all what I thought it was.
It's huge. It does have some pacing issues. It has some character issues. It's hard to narrow in on what Hunnam's motivation is in the first third of the film. It feels like it's because he doesn't have any medals, so he feels like he's lacking. Then you're told it's because his dad was a drunk and their reputation isn't that great. Then when he finds what he needs to find in the jungle and comes back and everyone's a fan of his, he then kills that goodwill by telling people, I know that there's a civilization out there, and no one believes him. They mock him, they shout at him, and so then he needs to go back to prove that he's right. And so I'm like, so I thought his desire was to just get a good reputation against his father's reputation. But then once he does achieve that, he kills it to go on this other motivation trail. It's just a little bit choppy at the beginning, but otherwise I liked his performance. I liked everyone's performance in this. I think the film suffers from some pacing issues. It's 2.5 hours long, so it's kind of a commitment. And if you're not in it for the emotional journey that this movie tries to take you on, you're not going to get through it. I'm a fan of movies like this. I watched Legends of the Fall with Brad Pitt, and that film is not by any means super popular because it also has pacing issues. It's slow, it's overly emotional, and this film kind of is in that relative same vein. So it's up my alley, but not everyone's.
All right, I'm still interested in checking this movie out. I kind of thought it was going to have more up vibes in terms of like going on an exciting adventure to discover this new and incredible place.
I mean, it does. It has danger, intrigue. It is a jungle. They've got, there are some pretty intimidating moments involving the river and the dangers that are inside the river. Okay, all right. You meet tribes of friendly and unfriendly local peoples. And so it does have those parts, but the film's narrative overall is relatively bittersweet.
Interesting.
But there are those highlight moments.
Yeah, and this definitely sounds like it would be a little bit of a divisive movie, and I'm looking at Rotten Tomatoes. Critics gave it an 87, fans gave it a 57, so you got a full 30-point gap there.
This film had awards in the back of its mind.
Interesting. Okay.
For sure. You get that. There are just some films that you watch that you're like, yeah, someone was hoping for accommodation of some sort because of this title. Whether it be directing or acting, I'm not sure, but it definitely has those vibes. I still enjoyed it. I don't know when I'll probably see it once more at some point, but it will be a while from now. I think it's one of those movies that you got to take some time between viewings.
Well, I wouldn't say you've made me like enthusiastic, but you've definitely made me curious, because this is one of those movies that I'm like, okay, I've seen almost every movie from that year, but that's one of the few movies that like I haven't seen. From when did this come out? 2016, 2017? Yeah, 2017.
Oh. According to IMDb, it died at the box office. Like
8.6 million is what I see.
Whoa. It was a $30 million budget, and worldwide it got less than $20 million.
Oh my gosh. That movie
opening weekend in the USA was just $110,000.
Very expensive, Bath. Yeesh. Yeah, that's not what you want to see, man.
Gross in the USA was only $8 million.
Yeah,
Wow.
so this movie
That's
clearly
painful.
has
Sorry,
a
Charlie.
stink around it. Whether it's fair to the quality and the content of the film or not, this movie does kind of have that perceived stink to it. So I guess I'm kind of fair for having that. But you've made me curious about this movie, despite
it doesn't deserve to be in the dirt.
Sure.
But it doesn't deserve an Oscar either. I think it definitely did get pummeled to the ground for no reason.
All right. Well,
but all right, that's Lost City of Z.
Definitely sounds like something I should check out soon. So my only movie this week is a recommendation. I have not seen this recently, but when I realized that it's on Disney Plus, I thought that I needed to bring it up now just to make people aware. The Miracle on 34th Street, the 1947 version, is over on Disney Plus. This is my personal favorite version of the movie. There are several, like every popular Christmas movie, there's about a dozen different versions from every decade.
Yep.
This one has a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. Let's see here. And one
You're definitely not alone in liking it.
Right. I think this one is kind of widely considered as the most classic or the best of the Miracle on 34th Street type movies. I don't think this is the first one either, so it's still kind of like one of those weird things where it's a remake, but
yeah.
This particular version, for some reason, is the one that I saw as a kid, and it just always stuck with me. You've got Maureen O'Hara playing Doris Walker. You've got John Payne as Fred Gailey. Edmund Gwend as the Kris Kringle in this movie. There's something about this movie that just has that warm, classic Christmas glow, and I really, really enjoy watching this. I haven't seen this in probably 8 or 9 years, so I'm really excited to check this out soon. It's probably second or third on the watch list that I've got going with Jacqueline. She, moment of full transparency, she found out that I had never seen National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. She wanted me to stop watching Elf halfway through to start Christmas Vacation. And I was like, no, let's finish Elf. We'll watch Christmas Vacation soon. So I think that is going to be next on the watch list. But Miracle on 34th Street over on Disney Plus. If you've never seen the Miracle on 34th Street, or if you haven't seen this particular version, it's a really beautiful story about a little girl who believes in Santa Claus and is out to prove to the world that this one particular mall Santa is Santa Claus. There's something just very sweet and heartwarming. It's kind of one of those warm blanket old classic movies. So if it's not fresh in your mind, if you're not super familiar with it, go check it out on Disney Plus. And if it's a movie you love but didn't realize that you had access to it, like me, you got it on Disney Plus. So there you go. That's my movie recommendation of the week.
Nice. Yeah, I'm kind of there with you in a different way that I didn't realize how many Christmas movies, classic ones, were on Disney Plus. I didn't realize that a bunch of them were streaming on there.
There's more there than on HBO. It's surprising.
Yeah, and like it, in a way, I'm like, well, of course Disney has the most Christmas movies. That feels like a Disney thing. But like, it didn't occur to me at first, and that's kind of funny that you were prompted to watch this because you found it on Disney Plus, because that's kind of the same story I have for what's to come on my side. I haven't seen Miracle on 34th Street since I was a kid.
Yeah, right there with you.
I don't remember having particularly strong feelings about it, in the good or the bad. I kind of just saw it as a kid, and I was like, it's an old movie. As a film person, it's kind of weird. I don't have a soft spot for a lot of old movies. I like a lot of old movies. I have old movies even, but I've never been... It's not like once I learned more about movies, I appreciated old movies more. I still am kind of hard on old movies as a modern day film critic, but I appreciate a lot of them. But yeah, Miracle 34th Street, I probably should rewatch it again if I'm going to say I like watching classic movies, because this is considered a classic, but who knows, maybe someday. And
to sweeten the deal even more, it's only an hour and 40 minutes. So like most Christmas movies, it's going to clock in right at the hour and a half mark. So not a super big time commitment.
Yeah.
So what else is on your list? I see you have this mysterious trilogy, and I think this is where you're going to talk about a really crappy Christmas experience or something. Like, tell me more based off your text messages. Your very cryptic text messages.
I've been watching YouTube, and YouTube ends up flowing with the current season. And a lot of YouTube videos are Christmas related. And I was watching this channel that started talking about these Christmas movies that I watched as a kid and looking at them in retrospect, what was good about them, what was bad about them. I didn't get very far into the video before I decided, you know what, I want to revisit them myself, but recording is kind of around the corner, so I need to watch them fast. So I ended up watching 3 Santa Claus movies.
Oh, the Tim Allens?
Yeah, in about a day's time.
That's impressive, sir. I've actually been planning to do that myself. I'm jealous you've already done it.
It's the first movie will never be a bad experience for me. It definitely is dated. It has some elements that don't really land exactly the same as they did. But that's the case for any movie. But I think it's a classic. I think the first Santa Claus movie is the closest to my generation's oldest Christmas classic in terms of being made in our lifetime. And I think that it's a mainstay for me, and my kids will definitely see the Santa Claus. It's one of those Christmas movies that parents force onto their children. And so they'll see the Santa Claus. And then that's recommend number 1. I'm also recommending, a little less enthusiastically, but still in the vein of I enjoy watching it, the second Santa Claus movie. This is when he makes the robot version of himself.
The evil clone.
Yep. While that sounds goofy as all get out, and it is. These movies are goofy as all get out. The second one still has a pretty solid pace. It's a bit nebulous on whether or not he sort of entraps Mrs. Claus, but if you don't think about it too much, it's okay. They're in love. But overall, I like it, and it's building this weird, interesting world around Santa Claus. The lore of the Santa Claus world gets strangely in depth through these films. The writers and directors definitely devoted a lot of time to thinking about the world of Santa Claus.
Santa Claus.
How do you feel about these? I know you've seen them before.
Yeah, I think like you. Words are hard tonight. It's been a long day. I drove to Nashville and back in one day, folks. I really, really like these movies. This, for me, is a conversation I've been having with myself all weekend because I decided the other night, while we were rewatching Elf and the Grinch with Jim Carrey, I decided that I wanted to go on Letterboxd and create a list for all my favorite Christmas movies because Jacqueline and I were like, we want to watch a Christmas movie, but here's the 4 that everyone knows. What else are we not thinking of? Mm-hmm. So I sat down, made a list, and I was like, man, the Santa Claus movies, those are hard because I don't know that any of them are actually good movies, but really. I like them probably twice as much as the quality deserves.
Yeah, they're not fantastic, but they're still good somehow.
I have not seen them in a few years. The moments that I've caught them, for 15 minutes at somebody's house while they're on in the background at a party or whatever, it hasn't played great. But I will say, speaking from childhood, huge love for Tim Allen, just in general. He was Buzz Lightyear and the guy on Home Improvement, yep. So he was a big part of my childhood, and I love seeing him as Santa Claus. I have a little bit of an odd take in that I think the second one is the best out of all of them.
You know what? I've heard that before, so it's not that weird. Apparently, there is a group of people that think the second one's the best, and that's okay. I still think it's a fine movie comparatively between the two. The 1 and 2, I should say.
I don't know why. I think I like Charlie more in the second one. He's more grown up and relatable, and not quite as Dad. The whole movie.
Let me go with your dad. Here's some cookies.
So I liked him as a rebellious teenager. You've got the romance. I don't remember what her name is, but
Carol,
the future Mrs. Claus, basically.
Carol Principal. She's the principal of his school. I don't know why I said Carol Prison.
Of course, her name is Carol. I liked her as a character. I thought she was really fun. I thought the romance was fun. I liked seeing him put in this unique situation where he's kind of got this limited amount of magical power to make romance happen, and just there's something about the sleigh ride scene warmed my heart as a kid. The gymnasium gift party stuff always warmed my heart as a kid.
Yeah.
The power of the snow globe and stuff. I really, really like them. I think the third one is a piece of hot shit.
What do you know?
I think it is.
What a transition, because the third one is in my avoid. And the only reason I move into my avoid like a slippery eel like that, y'all, is because he doesn't have one today.
Yeah.
So we're going to combine it in with this trilogy talk. I watched the third one, and I want to die. Yep. The third one is tough to get through, man. The sad part is that it's mostly because it opens up with his wife is pregnant with the Santa baby. I don't know how that fits really into the lore of the world, but long story short, Jack Frost really just wants to trick Santa Claus into wishing he'd never been Santa Claus so that he could take it instead and be Santa Claus and boot Tim Allen out of the role.
Which is basically Shrek 4.
Long series of annoying, just familial dispute bullshit later. About an hour and 10 minutes into the film, we finally get to the part where Tim Allen wishes he was never Santa Claus and Jack Frost does the flip on him. And that's when the movie gets interesting. When the movie's almost over, it gets interesting because it does kind of what 2 did almost in a sort of a different way and takes his Santa Clausness away and puts him in this alternative universe that he had never become Santa Claus. And it shows him as a lonely man who no longer talks to his family. He's uber fucking wealthy, but he's got nothing of substance. Think Doctor Strange, but older. And then he doesn't want it because he somehow still has memories of his Santa Clausness, even though he wished that time was reversed. I don't know how it works, but whatever. Time travel always sucks. And I wish that the movie had taken the Jack plotline and hurried up his trickery within the first act, and we get Tim Allen back in his life if he'd never been Santa Claus, and at first he likes it. He thinks it's cool and he's enjoying it, and then comes to the realization that his life actually sucks ass, and that he always had what he wanted, and this was just a shitty side vacation that he never really should have taken, and he then turns to try and get the Santa Claus back, and he gets it in the end, and he appreciates what he gets. As it stands now, all that part is like 15 minutes of the movie, 15, 20 minutes of the movie, and he wants Santa Claus back immediately after wishing it away. Like, there's no doubt that he wants to be Santa Claus. There's no tension there. So I don't know what this film was trying to accomplish other than just have Jack Frost be a dick, but at the end, Tim Allen's the daughter of his ex-wife and her new husband, their daughter, cures Jack Frost with a magical warm hug. And that's how the film is resolved. So it's not good. No, I avoid that one. Watch the first 2 Santa Clauses. Don't touch the third.
Well, I'll tell you what they were trying to do. It's essentially Rumpelstiltskin meets It's a Wonderful Life. You have a trickster Loki type character who saw It's a Wonderful Life on Blu-ray and was like, that's how I can defeat Santa. And I think that's why it takes so long, because It's a Wonderful Life is very much the same formula beat for beat, because you have an hour and 45 minutes or so of the character rising up and then going down and going down and going down and going down. And then there's the moment of, I wish I didn't exist. Mm-hmm. And he steps into a parallel universe for 20 minutes. And it's like the most exciting part of the movie. And then he steps right back into the reality he belongs in. And within the next 10 minutes, the movie is over. So I think they were really trying to go for that type of story. And it doesn't work for me. No. I made a Shrek 4 joke a moment ago. It's that same vibe where it just doesn't feel authentic or original or earned or necessary. I think the way you described it would make a lot more sense. Like, have that be the beginning of the movie. Like, in the first 15 minutes, it's basically Jumanji, where you spend the whole middle 80% of the movie, if you will, in the alternate universe. I think that could be a lot more fascinating than going through hell for the first 75%, and then the last quarter of the movie is actually kind of interesting, but by that point you've already cursed the movie out so much that you're not going to like it no matter what.
If I wanted to watch an hour and like 20, an hour and 30 minutes of a family's a love for each other being tested by close quarters and the holiday pressure, I would just invite the majority of my extended family to all converge on one location. So I didn't really want to watch this movie for something that I typically avoid. And so it wasn't fun to watch. The other two are way more fun to watch. I still support the idea of a Santa Claus 4 where Charlie takes over for Tim Allen. That's a fan desire. It will never happen in a million years, but a fan desire for it to happen has been around.
Watch Disney Plus eventually start putting out that type of content. Like, imagine if we started getting, like, they've already done High School Musical reboot type stuff.
Yeah.
So they're probably going to dip back into some of those movies. And with Tim Allen's age right now, maybe. Like, that's not...
it's never say never. Happen,
but I'm kind of living in this high off all the news right now where I feel like anything is possible.
Yeah, true. Disney did give everyone a few big old punches of endorphins.
Like 60 new shows and movies.
Dude, whenever I saw your post that showed Ahsoka, I was sitting on the floor over there, and Annabelle was here where I'm sitting, and she was talking to a friend on Snapchat. And so I'm sitting quietly just scrolling Facebook, and then I see your post with Ahsoka, and immediately I'm just like... like I'm pointing at the phone, but she's like talking to Snapchat to her friend. I'm like, oh my god, it's that moment where you can't have excitement just to yourself. Even if the other person won't get it, you have to direct it towards them. And I was like, oh my god, Ahsoka shows I'm back. She finally turned around and was like, what? Oh, okay, Ahsoka, cool, awesome. And then she turned back.
Jacqueline and I were sitting at the table, and she was in the middle of a sentence, and I shoved my iPhone in her face, and I was like, read it. She was like, I thought Ahsoka already had her own show. And I was like, no, I've just been saying I wanted that. She was like, oh, well, then good for you.
Oh, well, good for you. Yeah, good for me.
She was a little bit upset that I was on my phone while she was talking and interrupted her to tell her about what I wanted to say. So, you know, there's that. But Ahsoka's getting her own show. The Bad Batch is doing a thing. Which that animation just looks
I wasn't really excited for it until I watched the trailer, and I was like, oh, we get to see them directly deal with the fallout of Order 66. Okay, I'm there for it. Yep. I thought it was going to be like years down the line or something like that. I'm here for the immediate.
I thought it was going to be like I thought it was going to read like a Suicide Squad. Look at these really cool, awesome, badass people going through the galaxy. They're untouchable. No one can kill them. Come along for a fun ride. Yeah. Like, I thought it was going to be that kind of a vibe. But no, like, man, it looks like some of the darkest Star Wars content I've ever seen. Like, just full of the Empire. Like, oh my gosh, I was gushing about halfway through the Bad Batch trailer. So, but we are not here to talk about all of the new Star Wars stuff. We're here to talk about Santa Claus 3.
As much as we want to.
Yes. But I don't know that I have anything else to say other than I have a soft spot for Martin Short, but this is certainly not one of his best roles.
No. But that would bring us to our shows now, because we've gotten Santa Claus out of the way, City of Z and Miracle out of the way. Now we're going into the TV world. So Logan and I chatted for a really long time about Santa Claus. Let's take a gander at one of your shows you got today.
All right, so I've got some feel-good, fun content for you. We've got Gordon Ramsay Uncharted. I have mentioned the show before. Season 2 is now on Disney Plus. Jacqueline and I just finished watching it this weekend, so now I get to talk about it. I absolutely love the show. I'm a big Gordon Ramsay fan, and I think the show is a lot of fun because it's essentially a food traveling show. He spends a week in a foreign country, and he challenges up against a local top celebrity. He often goes up against local legends or other celebrity, like local celebrity TV chefs, people who have their own like shows, YouTube channels, whatever, or people who are like head chefs for, you know, the royalty or the religious leaders. And he challenges them to a cook-off, and he spends a week going around the country getting all kinds of ridiculous, insane, amazing ingredients. And then at the end of the episode, he has a live cook-off outside somewhere in this beautiful setting. And then the food looks amazing, and everybody eats the food and says it's good food. So it's a really formulaic, fun show, because he goes to these countries and has really ridiculous experiences. In the new season, I'll just rattle off the countries. He goes to Tasmania, South Africa. He goes to Louisiana. He to the Bayou. He goes to Sumatra. He goes to Guyana, India, and then Norway.
Nice.
All really good episodes. There's not a bad one in here. But I'll just spotlight the one we watched the most recently, the Norway one, in honor of Valhalla coming out and me not having the money to buy it yet.
Fucking same.
Right. I've got people like texting me like, dude, you get to ride a wolf in this game, but I'm like, great.
Stop tempting me. I already won it.
All right, so the Norway episode. So he goes to Norway, obviously. He goes diving. I learned that Norway is a huge cultural hub for seafood. I had no clue. But there's all kinds of
I want to go to Norway.
Right. All kinds of really unique seafood that's available there. Just something about the northern waters being the mixture of the cold and the warm, they say. I don't know.
Huh.
He does a couple of things. Some gross content. If you're a little bit squeamish, what I'm about to say might make you go, oh. He is taught how to make a pancake out of the blood of reindeer.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's called a blood pancake.
Wait, like a legit like a pancake as we understand it?
Yeah. They make this batter out of reindeer blood. They call it blood pancakes. I'm pretty sure it's pancakes, blood from reindeer. It may just be cattle, but either way, they call them blood pancakes, and they somehow make a batter out of it, and it looks like ketchup, and then they put it in a pan over a fire, and they make a pancake out of it.
And it tastes good?
Gordon said it was okay. But he didn't. Okay. He didn't want to make it again.
He didn't want any more, but he said it was okay.
Apparently, reindeer is like the most prime meat you can eat in Norway. It's like their Christmas goose, their Thanksgiving turkey. It is the best of the best, the prime of the prime. Reindeer, which is hilarious because here in America we like worship reindeer and like maybe don't even believe they actually exist, and we think they're magical, and over there it's like their prime sirloin, and
I put it in my mouth.
I thought that was hilarious. He deals with some really gross fermented fish. There's a sheep head dish that is phenomenal. He's told, hey, you're going to go to this village for this scene. They're going to show you this local recipe that's really unique. So he shows up, he gets out of the car, he rounds the corner, and there's a local Norwegian standing over a fire pit, and he's got a long spear, and on the end of the spear is the decapitated head of a sheep.
Nice.
And he is roasting the sheep's head over the fire. They take an axe, split the sheep head down the middle, and then they eat the face muscles and the neck and the cheek and the tongue. And it is super gross and it is super weird. But every episode is kind of like that in some way. In each episode, he goes to a foreign country. He tries things that he's never tried before. He looks for spices, he looks for alcohol, he looks for berries and for fruits, and sometimes he goes hunting and sometimes he goes fishing, and there's just all kinds of unique stuff that he does. I really like to travel. I can't afford to travel or travel with COVID right now, so this show is a really good way to kind of feel like you're getting out there and exploring while also eating really good food and having a fun adventure with Gordon Ramsay. So go check it out on Disney+.
Sounds like it'll be fun, but also make me sad. Because I want to be there, Ramsey.
Possible. There's definitely squeamish moments for sure. Like there was one episode where he's wrestling an eel out of a river, and Jacqueline does not do snakes, and so she had to like look away.
Nice.
So there's definitely some not for the faint of heart content. Even though I would still kind of label it as like I would probably show a 10-year-old. Like I don't think there's anything super inappropriate in the show. But it would be rated T for fear. Or PG-13 for fear or something maybe, but
cool. Really
good show. Anyway, what is in your TV section this week?
So on my end of things, I've just got one show today. I wasn't anticipating talking about the show, but then Annabelle and I saw it on Netflix, and we watched the trailer, and we were like, wow, that kind of looks directly up our alley, so let's give that a go. It's called Hilda on Netflix. It's very cute animation. Think Adventure Time meets Imaginary Friends. And that's pretty much what you've got in terms of the animation. And in terms of, I mean, also animation, but very much the feeling and the concept of magical creatures and a child in a forested area finding magical creatures. It's very Gravity Falls-y. So Hilda is a fearless blue-haired girl, travels from a wilderness full of elves and giants to a bustling city packed with new friends and mysterious creatures. It's England. They've got British accents, but it's a slightly fictionalized England. It's an England if, like, giants and elves existed. And what that would be like, she moves to a place called Trollsburg, which is a kind of English town with cars and technology from sort of the 80s and the 70s to 80s, I think, is what this is based in. And there's brick walls all around it to keep out the trolls and the other magical creatures. And so it's kind of the antithesis of what she wants from life, because she enjoys making friends with magical creatures. And she ends up making some friends who have some crazy, magically charged adventures. We blasted through the season in one day. Like, it was all kinds of fun to watch. It's slightly episodic. It does have a loose plot from episode to episode to episode, but for the most part, they're dealing with a new magical creature and a relatively new problem each episode, so you can watch it at your own pace. And another benefit to this recommendation today is that by the time this episode is out, the second season of Hilda should be out on Netflix. And so I'm looking forward to that when I get the time to watch it. It has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics and 98% from average audience score. I don't normally bring up Rotten Tomatoes in television show discussion, but it just seemed interesting that it was such a high rating. But otherwise, yeah, watch Hilda, especially if you like Gravity Falls. If anyone's ever watched Gravity Falls and they like it and they have a Netflix subscription, watch Hilda right the fuck now.
Yeah, the animation does seem a lot like that. This animation kind of reminds me of some of like the animated shows that I feel like I grew up watching as a kid.
Yeah.
It just has a very bright and vibrant, clear, colorful, simple animation to the look. And one thing that I'm particularly interested in, the lead character is Bella Ramsey, who is Lyanna Mormont in Game of Thrones. And I really liked her character in Game of Thrones. So I'm really fascinated to know more about this show. I think I'm going to click on this soon because you've completely sold me on this.
It's a cute show, and the episodes aren't very long, so it's not that big of a commitment. And I enjoyed it from beginning to end. I'm totally down. It's coming. The second season should be out on what would be tomorrow for us, but Monday this week, the 14th. At least that's what Netflix told me.
Monday the 14th.
So, guys, give it a go. It's a good show. Hey, I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but that worked out.
Well,
but otherwise, Logan, that throws us back to you.
Yeah, speaking of good shows, we got a new episode of The Mandalorian. I think the big moment for me, obviously, here is we got to spend a huge chunk of this episode without the Mandalorian's helmet on. We also got to see Bill Burr come back, and they get to pull a really fun heist on the Empire. John, what are your thoughts overall on the new episode of The Mandalorian? Favorite moments, highs, and lows?
I think, so out the gate, I was not super looking forward to Bill Burr's return because I didn't really like his character in the first season.
Mayfield.
He's usually a stand-up comic, so his acting skills aren't quite attuned. But hey, he kind of sold me this episode. I'll give him credit where credit's due. He did a good job in this episode, especially compared to last season. I think he's grown a little bit more. His character definitely endeared himself more to the audience by the end for sure, because I had zero sympathy for him when we started. But then I felt a little bit more for him definitely by the end. So that's good and stand up for him.
Right there with you.
Boba has a fucking awesome matte paint job going on in his armor now.
Hell yeah.
People are pointing out how it's weird that he never fixed it in the original trilogy. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. Right now, Boba just appreciates having his armor back and he wants to look good and fucking does. So shut up.
And he's still got that dent over the left eyeball.
Yeah, can't quite bang out that dent, it seems. It's going to be there forever. Other highlights. I liked seeing that Mando didn't realize that he was going to be... he forgot he wasn't wearing the Beskar when he was fighting the pirates. And he took hits that he wasn't expecting to hurt because he's used to wearing the better armor. And then he got smacked and he's like, oh shit, right, I'm wearing this armor that's not it's not going to cover me as well.
Yes, I noticed that.
I thought that was great storytelling on the creators' parts. The whole scene with the Operation Cinder mention, when they mentioned Cinder, I was like, oh fuck, we're bringing that into this. And of course, yeah, Pedro Pascal making an appearance as the definitive Mando actor, in terms of who he's supposed to be under the armor. I thought that was interesting. It was really tense because the show sells you on his belief in keeping the helmet on. So anytime he's taking it off, I always tense up.
Right.
Like, I'm tense for Mando as well. And so that's good. And then I'll get back to you as well once I mentioned the last big thing in the episode that I liked, was the dropping of the infamous depth charge.
Ooh, you just stole my thunder, son.
Well, the moment the hatch in the back of the Slave One opened, I was like, oh my god, is he gonna do it? And then it drops out, and I was like, hey, shush, shush, shush. I'm like shushing my wife, and I don't need to. She's not even saying anything. I'm like, shush, 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 shush. Wow. I was like, yes.
Yes.
And apparently I've seen so many other Star Wars fans talking about the depth charge. I was like, apparently we all have a hive mind and we love the depth charge.
Yes, it's one of the coolest sound effects in all of Star Wars. It would easily be in my top 10. Maybe not top 5, but top 10 for sure. I absolutely love it in Attack of the Clones. So you're right, as soon as that hatch opened, I literally was like, and I was like, oh, and Jack was like, what? And I'm like, he's gonna do it, he's gonna do it, he's gonna do it. And then he did it, and I was like, he did it. And I was just like saying he did it. But I love that sound effect, that bomb. I literally rewound it twice in the moment, just to hear it again. So I loved it. That was a huge small moment, you know?
Yes.
Because if you've never seen Attack of the Clones, or if you don't remember it,
yeah,
cool, a moment, it happened, it went by. You're not bothered by there's not this giant fan service like slapped across the screen, which is refreshing in Star Wars because they normally splash fan service all over the place when they're doing it. But I thought that was a really well done, simple moment for the people who would get it.
I appreciate it. I'm glad he didn't like try and redo the line that his dad said back whenever he first used them. When like Django said he doesn't, I think he said something like, doesn't take the hint, this guy, before he started using the depth charges on him in Clones. And glad that they see the balance there in fan service and story.
Right. Okay, so going through the episode, I guess a little bit more beat by beat, I really appreciated that we started off with getting Bill Burr, Mayfield out. I thought we were going to have to spend the entire episode just on getting Mayfield so that then we could get to Grogu in the next episode. So this episode kind of advanced in the timeline way further than I expected it to. And I've kind of said that a couple episodes in a row now. I kind of keep waiting for them to throw in a fluff. And so far it's just boom, boom, boom. Like it's escalating pretty much since episode 3, where we met Bo-Katan. Every episode has introduced someone huge or included a huge moment. Like this episode, I don't think introduced anyone super huge, but this is the first time we see Mayfield in this season, and we get to see Mando's face for half of the episode with that awesome Quentin Tarantino Inglourious Bastard style moment with that ISB officer.
Yeah.
So I like that we got to Mayfield quick. I like that we didn't have to kill a whole bunch of people to get to Mayfield. We just assigned him to it. I thought that was nice that they didn't have to kill a whole bunch of people to get there. What did you think about the big giant like rolling tank kind of Indiana Jones swinging at the Nazis on top of the tank type fighting scenes?
I liked them, but like I felt like it was weird that the Empire had zero backup for all of these fuel trucks. Like, they lose so much of their stuff to these pirates. I'm like, there's no protection whatsoever for these fucking tankers. You're just begging these pirates to blow their shit up. So I thought that was a little bit weird. But other than that, like, the fight the Mando has was good. I liked the tension that they used, the delivery of the fuel as the reason why they're stuck in this fight, because they can't go fast, otherwise it'll blow up. But if they go slow, the pirates get on and Mando has to deal with them, so they might die either way. So it has that definite, like, when you're writing a screenplay, you're like, oh, this is gonna be tense as fuck. Like, you know you've got the balance right in that scenario.
Actually, that kind of reminds me of Speed, because that's kind of how the bomb works in Speed, right?
Yeah, you can't go too fast, you can't go too slow. So it's got that balance. I liked the fact that because they're disguised as the Empire and they are in danger, but not from the Empire, it creates the situation where suddenly you're relieved to see the Empire,
right,
when they save them. And Bill Burr even like pokes, I think he's poking more of the audience than Mando, to be honest, where he goes, you never thought you'd be relieved to see a stormtrooper, huh? Because, you know, obviously he was the Empire.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, you don't normally feel relief when you see a stormtrooper. But yeah, and then he has that, you mentioned the whole scene, Quentin Tarantino type scene with that officer. And yeah, I liked that I could see, again, Pedro Pascal does a good job face acting. He does a good job helmet acting, and so do the other guys that wear the suit. They all do a great job helmet acting. But he's got a great face acting, because Bill Burr is like slowly giving away more and more about who he is and revealing more and more resentment that he apparently has for this commanding officer. See on Pedro's face, like, dude, we gotta go. Like, you gotta shut up. You gotta shut up. We gotta go. What are you doing? What are you doing, man? And then he pulls out the fucking pistol and you're like, oh my God. And
I know, I was not expecting it.
And then the moment where he kills everyone else and he's like, here, I've never seen your face. Because you realize he killed everyone in the room that saw Pedro's face. Or Din's face, I guess is his name in the show. And then he says, I never saw you take your helmet off. So in essence, he just erased the event for Mando and gave Mando the option to say that he had never taken his helmet off. And I was like, oh, bonding.
Yeah.
That was a good moment. This episode has all kinds of little good moments like that.
That's a really good point. I guess I really hadn't thought about it before. I took it as a sign of respect, that he was basically saying like, hey, I didn't see anything. We're good. Please don't kill me. We're good. Please don't kill me. That's kind of how I took it. But you got a good point there about him like killing everyone in the room. It benefits them because they need to get out of there. But also it you know.
Yeah, I think it was double-edged.
Yeah, that's a good point. It kind of reminds me of Palpatine, because anytime Palpatine uses his Sith powers, anyone who was a witness has to be executed by Darth Vader, even if it was a stormtrooper or an Imperial Guard.
Right, I forgot about that.
Yeah, if they see Palpatine using the Sith, Vader will have to kill them. So I think they cover that more in the books than they do in any of the shows or the movies. But anyway, yeah, I appreciated that. Man, that ISB officer, I didn't recognize him from anything before, but what a fucking son of a bitch.
Batman Begins?
Was he in Batman Begins?
Yeah, he was Joe Chill.
Oh, are you serious?
Who killed parents.
Ooh, I did not recognize him.
I've also seen him in a couple other things. He's apparently he's a recurrent actor in like Rob Zombie properties and stuff like that, but I've not seen him in those. But yeah, he's Joe Chill, and then I've seen him pop up in other small roles here and there as well. I couldn't tell you another one right now. But that's the one that I've seen more people paying attention to. His face tricked my brain too, and I was like, I have to know, and I Googled it, and I was like, oh, Batman Begins.
Richard Brake is his name, and I don't recognize him from many other things. But anyway, that scene was amazing. I was sitting there like, holy crap, this feels like that basement scene in Inglourious Bastards. Like, this is so tense. And you're right about the face acting too with Din Djarin, because man, the Mandalorian did not say very many words, but the words that he said, like, they put me on edge. And his uncomfortableness and shiftiness, and it was just...
It's clear he's not used to having his face out. He's used to being covered by the helmet, and he could just pull whatever face he needs.
He feels completely vulnerable and exposed. He has no confidence whatsoever. Even after Bill Burr just mows everyone down in the room, he doesn't say a damn thing. He just takes the helmet and puts it back on. A bunch of other people run in the room, and he's like, ready, go. And like, that's it. There's no conversation. There's no dialogue. He is shut down. I wish he had spoken a little bit more, but I was really getting the vibe that he was having like straight panic attack after panic attack after panic attack.
Yeah, stressed like crazy.
He was sweating hard in those moments. So I appreciated it. Like, I kind of expected him to have that Harrison Ford fuck you swagger, and he did not. So I thought that was a little bit of an interesting turn, because normally our leads in Star Wars are super arrogant, cocky people. Like, Ahsoka's super cocky and arrogant.
Yeah.
Leia, you got Obi-Wan even. Like, everyone is just sarcastic and sassy as hell. So to see him just kind of be shut down like that was an interesting change of pace, and I never thought about it until you kind of you made me dig into it.
Yeah, and I enjoyed that scene a lot. I enjoyed everything with his helmet off because he did a great job. What did you think of the final speech that Mando gave to what's his name as a reflection of the speech he gave in the first season?
Moff Gideon.
He basically says Moff Gideon's speech almost line for line from the first season back at Moff. And everyone's been making the memes of Liam Neeson of yes. I will find you and I will kill you. Basically from Mando.
I think it's the first moment this season that just didn't really ring super authentic to me. It didn't seem like something.
It felt a little too on the nose. I didn't feel like Mando would hologram to Moff and warn him that he was on his trail. I feel like he loses the element of surprise.
It's a Chris Pine thing. That's not Chris Pine. That's what oh my gosh, you've got to help me. Star Trek.
Kirk. Captain Kirk.
Captain Kirk. That is something Kirk would do. He's gonna hologram the bad guy, and he's gonna smugly tell him to stick it where the sun don't shine, because we're about to blast you away. But Mandalorian, like, I feel like he's just going to go in silently, without a word. You're not even going to notice he's there until he's already crossed half the room to get to you. And then everything after that is just black. Like, he's supposed to be that Batman, a silent type person. So I was not a big fan of... Do I hate it? No. But it didn't seem authentic to the character for me. It felt a little showboaty.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I didn't get like the whole like pumped up like, oh yeah, he's mad, he's coming for Moff. I felt like, why are you telling Moff that you know where he is? Like, you should be the one to sneak onto his ship and such. So apparently the next episode's going to be the last of this season.
Correct. It's all going to go down.
I feel like they have a lot to do, but I also have no idea where they want this season to end. A lot of people have been saying that they think it's going to be the Empire Strikes Back of the season, that the villains are ultimately going to win by the end of the episode, and the third season is going to be the comeback season for the good guys. I don't know. There's nothing to indicate one way or the other exactly, but I feel like they have a lot to do in the next episode. But again, I don't even know if they want... I get the implication that Mando and Moff are going to run into each other. They're going to clash, but like... Is Moff going to get away with the child? And that's just going to be how the season ends? Is that Mando just like fucking fails? Or is he going to get the child back? Because that feels like a real quick turnaround of Moff taking the child and then Mando getting him back. So both ways don't feel super satisfying to me. So I'm curious to know what the next episode's going to be.
I'm very curious to know too, because to me, I see two kind of more obvious pathways. One pathway is it's all action. He tries to get Grogu back and fails, and so the next season it's kind of like right out of the gate, okay, I've got to get more than just these 3 or 4 people together. I've got to go get everyone I've ever met.
And we're going to go
take Ahsoka, them on. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then he has to build the team the whole season, you know, like, hey, come help me. Okay, but you have to help me with these 3 side quests first. Like, maybe that's it. Maybe he gets Grogu back in this episode, and it ends on a more positive note. Maybe he doesn't defeat the bad guy, but beats off the bad guy and then gets away really fast. That is probably what will happen. If we're going for a darker note or a darker tone, do you think they would have the balls to kill Boba Fett?
I think they definitely have the balls to kill the woman who is indentured to Boba Fett. In terms of the duo of them, Boba Fett and her being both on the chopping block, I don't think so, because I don't think we've spent enough time with Fett to feel, aside from nostalgia, to feel sympathy for his death. Like, if I had never seen anything about Star Wars and I was just watching The Mandalorian, Fett hasn't had enough character development for me to even understand who he is. outside of the fact that me as a Star Wars fan, I know who Boba Fett is.
Sure, that's
so
fair.
They can totally kill him and get me to feel sad. But people who don't have that pre-existing nostalgic attachment won't get a whole lot of satisfaction from his sort of demise, or at least a narrative demise. So it depends on who they're prioritizing here. Are they prioritizing people that have that nostalgic bone in their body? Or are they trying to prioritize the broad spectrum of people who may or may not have that pre-existing attachment? I'm not sure.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I have a little bit of a...
I hope not. I just don't want them to.
I don't want them to. I have a little bit of a funny, weird feeling they might do it. For one, have they announced a Boba Fett miniseries yet?
No.
Or
I don't think they're going to. I don't think Fett's going to get his own stuff. I think Fett will definitely remain tied with Mando, but I don't know if he's going to die.
Yeah, and that's I'm kind of wondering, like, okay, so the Mandalorian just lost, Din Djarin just lost his ship. You know, we've got Slave One here. Could Boba Fett make this big, awesome sacrifice to save Grogu, and he gets Grogu back, but loses Boba in the process? But hey, I guess I got a cool new ship. I would kind of be bummed if they went that way, because
I don't want Mando to use Slave One, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't either.
I want Mando to figure out a different way to get a different ship, whether it be another Razor Crest. Maybe he gets a new Razor Crest that's an updated version of what he had. Or he just gets another cool ship that we haven't seen yet. I don't really want him to have Slave One. I hope that's not the direction they go, because when I see Slave One, I think of Jango and Fett. And Mando, aside from being a Mandalorian, doesn't feel like a natural progression for that ship to follow. The Slave One's for the Fetts, not for the Mandos.
Yeah, I hope it stays that way. I am interested to know if it's possible to put Beskar on a ship. Because if you could do that, I bet Mandalorian tries that. I have a feeling that somehow...
might be the big thing. He tries to like not get blown up by the cruiser,
right?
That Moff has. Maybe he tries that as like a latch ditch effort to like charge the cruiser and not get blown up.
Right, and he's gotten the new Beskar staff this season. They've re-brought back in the Boba Fett armor, but he hasn't like gotten a new order shipment or whatever of Beskar. Something tells me season 3 could be a big season for that. Maybe he needs to go get Beskar so he can outfit the rest of his Mandalorian friends that he just made. Or maybe they already are. Like, that's kind of the hard thing. Is it's hard for me to know, do all Mandalorian armor have it, or is it just some? I'm still unclear on that.
Yeah, is Bo-Katan and them all equipped with Beskar? That doesn't seem likely.
Like, I don't know.
So I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel Beskar to me, but
yeah, I'd like to do some research on that. Either way, I think it would be really smart to put Beskar on a ship, because then you can't get it blown up like you did. However, so his ship gets repaired and it gets a fresh coat of paint, and then in the next episode they blow it up. In this most recent episode, Boba Fett gets a fresh coat of paint, and I hope they don't blow him up in the next episode, but I guess we'll just have to see.
Oof, yeah, now that you say it like that, I'm nervous.
I hope they don't, and I hope they don't kill the Ming Na Wen character. I can't remember what her character's name. I actually saw someone spotted her as a character in the trailer for The Bad Batch. So it looks like we're going to get more of that character in The Bad Batch.
Interesting.
Which will be,
cool. We'll get some backstory.
20 years before, I guess. 15 years before, something like that.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm down with knowing more about her.
But yeah, I mean, I'm ready to actually see Moff Gideon do something, because this entire episode, it's just been Moff Gideon standing in a room alone or with one or two servants and staring menacingly at something. So I would like to actually see him do something this season. I really want to see that staff on Darksaber battle in the next episode.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Last question. Will any limbs get severed in this next episode?
I think that honestly, I think the one that has the most likely chance of that is Moff Gideon.
Interesting.
I think he'll lose something, because twofold. One, he made all those fucking remarks about poking your eye out to Grogu, which could mean that maybe his eye gets stabbed out by either the staff or the Darksaber itself, or he loses a limb or appendage of some sort to it, just as like a comeuppance. And I think it's also because he's got those dark troopers, those robotic trooper men, which means that they're definitely like, they have sophisticated robot technology aboard, and they're using it for offensive capabilities, which means he might lose an arm and maybe gets replaced with a robot arm.
That's a good prediction, sir. I approve of your prediction. Cool. Well, I'm excited to see what happens in the next episode. I don't think they cut off Mandalorian's hands. Moff Gideon is where I would bet my money to. You completely sold me on that. I don't think they would do that to Boba Fett, but who knows? We'll just have to see. Cara Dune, maybe, I don't know. Maybe you give her a couple battle scars.
But she's getting her own series, so I doubt she'll take too much damage.
That's a really good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. Unless the that X-Wing pilot is going to be the lead.
Maybe.
I don't know. Anyway, I'm excited for The Mandalorian next week, but
yeah.
I'm sad that it's going to be our last episode for an entire year. It'll be Christmas next year before we get new Mando.
Oh, the sad reality of being a consumer of high-end media. But all right.
Moving on.
Did you see Mandalorian? What did you think about it? Let us know in the comments down below. Are you excited for this next episode? Who's gonna lose a limb? Comment, like, subscribe, do all that stuff here right now before we get to this next section, which is a podcast recommend. So we want you here with us, but we also enjoy showing you the other buildings that are in this neighborhood, the podcast neighborhood. What's going on over there at Susan's house? What about Mark's house? These are not real people, but podcasts are real, and we want to showcase one that sounds interesting to y'all. We'll see you back here in just a few seconds. Stick around.
This is Kimberly.
And I'm Kristen, hosts of the Murder and Myths podcast.
In our podcast, we tackle a common theme and bring you two stories. One of true crime, where I discuss murder and unsolved cases.
And one of mythology, where I delve into the darker side of Norse, Egyptian, and other lesser-known mythos.
You can find us on Twitter at Murder and Myths and our website, murderandmyths.com.
Our new episodes are available on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, and Spotify. So please leave us a review and let us know what you think.
And don't forget, come for the murder
and stay for the myths.
And welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around through that. We hope it sounded interesting. But for now, that brings us to our report section. This is where we assigned each other's movies last week, and we report on them the next one, and then we'll assign each other new ones after this. So, Logan, which one do you want to start with? Do you want to start on your more seasonally appropriate one, or on my shorter one?
Hey, I've been jabbing for too long about Mandalorian, so why don't you take the lead here?
All right, cool. So mine is on HBO Max. It's a Studio Ghibli animated called From Up on Poppy Hill.
Poppy Hill.
So From Up on Poppy Hill, it takes place during the, I believe it was the 60s. I saw a date at one point in the movie. It's definitely pre like air conditioning and most common like electricity usage. It does have buses and little cars and stuff, so technology exists and electricity does exist because there's street lamps. But it's Hayao Miyazaki's like favorite period of like the 70s to 80s, simpler time.
Yeah, it's 1963.
There it is. Yep. Definitely Hayao Miyazaki's like favorite time period to live in. I think he wants the world to still look like this. And hey, if it looked like a Ghibli film, I can't say I would blame him. But From Up on Poppy Hill is about a young girl who is left to care for a family and some renting tenants in this house. Her younger sister and brother, while her mom is off studying at university in the United States, and her father has passed prior to the events of this film. She goes to school just like everybody else, but she also has the duties of a house caretaker. And the synopsis given on Google is 1963, and Japan is in the midst of a swift modernization, leaving behind the Second World War's painful memories and focusing on a brighter future symbolized by the coming year's Tokyo Olympics. That's a huge overview because that's kind of what's happening in the wider world around them, but the film focuses explicitly on Umi and Shuru, I believe is the boy's name in this. She is a very stoic, very serious girl, but she has a sweet side to her. She puts up flags every day as her house looks out over a harbor, and the flags mean to basically sail safely, have a safe journey. Because she's, pretty focused on the fact that she lost her dad at sea because he was a supply ship captain during a Korean War and he was killed. and she meets this boy who runs a newspaper for their high school, or at least news pamphlets, and it's in this decrepit, huge, like, wooden mansion that there's all kinds of school clubs in. School for philosophy, science, and there's this huge debate in school to tear down the building, and everyone who has their clubs in there doesn't want it torn down. So she ends up joining them, mostly boys, and through her and his efforts to convince everyone to keep it up, they end up assimilating most of the school into the endeavor, and they put this huge effort forward to save the clubhouse, basically. They fall for each other, but it gets complicated by some unknown history. The idea of them being together gets tossed into the air, whether or not they can. And then the end of the movie is rather bittersweet, more on the sweet side, very Ghibli fashion. The animation's beautiful. The voice acting is great. The directing is by Goro Miyazaki. I'm not sure if there is a relation to Hayao Miyazaki, but otherwise I recommend it. I enjoyed it. It's only an hour and a half, and it was really touching slice of life, very warm, as you say, warm blanket type film. I enjoyed it.
Nice. It sounds like something that I would enjoy. Like, I really didn't know anything about this movie.
I think you would.
Okay. I didn't really know anything about this until you kind of started pitching it, and it really does sound like something that's kind of up my alley. I can be a sucker for really sweet, young, like, romantic type movies, and that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting from this movie. It's more than that, but that alone is a really good hook that has sold me on. Eventually, saying yes, I need to check out From Up on Poppy Hill.
I agree. Yeah, I would recommend it if you find the time to watch it. If you endeavor into anime at some point, I think it's a good go. Definitely, if anyone is endeavoring to watch more Ghibli films, give it a chance for sure.
Cool. All right. So my movie this week is White Christmas. I am checking another classic Christmas of my wall of shame off the list. I might reveal some of those at the end of the episode here. White Christmas came out in 1954. This is a 2-hour musical comedy romance Christmas movie that is generally, I would say, known to be beloved by all. Surprisingly, it's a 7.6 on IMDb, but I don't really care too much about that. But 77% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is interesting. Not a super high amount of reviews, so I think that plays a factor. But I always kind of had the reputation that this was one of the, like, biggest, bestest, most belovedest type Christmas movies, you know? It's just one of the most movies, I guess, you know? It's White Christmas. It's the White Christmas. Anyway, you got Bing Crosby playing Bob Wallace, Danny Kaye as Phil Davis. Then you got Rosemary Clooney playing Betty Haynes and Vera Ellen playing Judy Haynes. Man, these four leads together, their chemistry, it's pure electric enjoy. It's so much fun. It really reminded me of something like Singing in the Rain, where for the bulk of the movie, like, you're just smiling because the lead characters are in a good mood and they're having fun and they're singing and they're dancing and they're not letting life take them down. They're just finding the magic wherever they go and stuff. And super intelligent, fast-paced, witty banter that's really, really fun to watch. They just talk in a certain way that just snaps and crackles on the screen. I just really, really enjoyed the dialogue and the flirting and the insults and stuff, and really enjoyed White Christmas. Absolutely one of those warm blanket movies. I'm just gonna keep using that term, dude, because it's December and we're keeping the heat low and I'm cold. So it's a warm blanket movie. Let me just check in with you. Have you seen White Christmas? Is this like a big beloved movie to you, or is it just another old movie that other people like?
I've definitely seen it once, very long time ago. I don't remember much about it. I really only remember Bing Crosby, but that's just because I remember him as a person, so I vaguely can see him in the movie. But other than that, I don't remember a whole ton.
I thought this movie was full of really fun musical performances, really good dancing performances. There were several scenes that were just a joy to watch on screen. Really, really impressive dancing and choreography. I had a really good time watching this movie. I think that if you're looking to get into the Christmas spirit, this is a really great one to click on. It is a full 2 hours, and I think there are some moments where there's some, like every movie, once you get to kind of that crescendo of the third act, the band has broken apart because there's drama and misunderstandings and miscommunications and really silly assumptions.
Of course.
Once everything gets cleared up, everybody's fine and we're all in love and we're singing happily together at the end. And there's a little bit of like, okay, all right, there's some cheesiness here. But I think it's the warm, good kind of cheese in a really good Christmas movie that you want to see. It's not like you actually want to see all of these lives destroyed in this dark, dramatic, thrilling way. Like it's a feel good Christmas movie, so you're gonna get the feel good cheese.
Yes.
And this movie's all feel good cheese. So I had a lot of fun with it. I could see myself watching this like every year, every other year for Christmas moving forward. I'm not the biggest musical fan, but
Same.
I really enjoyed this.
Cool.
So I would say 9 out of 10,
Nice.
10 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm not a huge musical fan either, but man, yeah, if I ever wanted to watch this movie in the near future, you sold me on giving it a click at least, because on the surface level, I probably would have seen this on Netflix and been like, it's probably just going to be another old Christmas movie that's considered a classic. Because you mentioned It's a Wonderful Life earlier. I'm nothing against It's a Wonderful Life. I'm not a huge fan of that movie. Like, I've seen it a few times, and it's okay.
It's completely
so
fair.
that's generally how I feel about a lot of those older Christmas movies that a lot of people consider to be classics. I'm like, they're fine, but I don't pursue them. So maybe we'll give White Christmas a chance down the road. But I'm glad you had a good time with it. Sounds like we both had very enjoyable experiences this week with our reports.
Yeah, White Christmas, man. Really, really good story. I didn't get into the whole plot all that much. It's essentially about two guys and two girls who like each other and try to figure out over the course of 2 hours whether they'll actually end up together.
Will they, won't they kind of stuff.
Yeah, the will they, won't they kind of stuff. So I enjoy it. There's also there's the whole corner of the movie that's all of the military stuff and about the general and getting the troops back together on Christmas Eve to save the old general's inn. And I really liked that angle. It's a lot to get into right now for this particular review, I think, but if the question is, should I watch it or not, this is an obvious hell yes.
Cool. Sweet. So I say hell yes and you say hell yes. So it's a good week for movies, everybody. So let's see if we could do that again. We don't often have a whole ton of luck with that, but we'll see this time around. So Logan, I think we're going to go into our assigning section and give each other our fates for the coming week. So I'm going to go ahead and give you yours. It's funny, I didn't intend for there to be crossover or any kind of a theme on my side, but apparently there is. So I'm assigning The Devil All the Time, which is a Netflix film that came out this year, not too long ago actually. I think it was only in September that it was released. Yep. And The Devil All the Time, I mentioned crossover. The reason being is because it has Robert Pattinson and Tom Holland in it, just like The City of Z. It's just missing Charlie Hunnam.
Hey, nice.
That's kind of funny. But anyway, this film came out and I've heard positive things. It's on my list. I've not clicked on it. It's 2 hours and 18 minutes, crime drama thriller. Sinister characters converge around a young man devoted to protecting those he loves in a post-war backwoods town teeming with corruption and brutality. That's what IMDb says. That's a lot of gobbledygook that doesn't mean anything. I recommend watching the trailer on Netflix if the characters sound anything interesting to you. There's some crazy visuals like spiders on people's faces. There's a small church. I think Robert Pattinson is the preacher of the church, if I remember the trailer correctly. Pretty young, hot, attractive preacher, if I do say so myself. It looks interesting. Looks like a more interesting role for Holland. Oh, I should also mention it has Bill Skarsgård of It fame. He is the It clown.
Yeah.
And Sebastian Stan, can't forget my boy, is in this.
Good old Winter Soldier,
Yep,
too.
along with Jason Clarke, so people might recognize him. There's a lot of names in here. Haley Bennett is in here. I recognize her. I think that it's worth a click. I just haven't yet, and I'm curious to know what you'll say about it.
I'm curious myself. It's got a 64% on Rotten Tomatoes, but it's got 200 reviews, which is cool. People are still seeing movies, That's really, really cool that enough people are submitting that many reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. But yeah, dude, this movie does look like it is right up my alley. Normally these movies are exciting as hell or boring and stuffy as hell.
Yes.
I'm not sure where we'll go here, but I love the cast. The concept seems really, really interesting. I think this movie kind of looks like it could be a fucked up good time. So I am probably the perfect audience for this movie. So I can't wait to check this out. Thank you for signing me up.
I may even watch it alongside you this week. I will find out for sure.
That would be fun.
So what am I watching this week?
You were watching a movie that I will not be watching alongside with you. But we've got the new Pixar movie Soul is coming out on Christmas Day. Am I correct?
I believe so, yes.
Yes. So in honor of that, I'm going to throw a Pixar movie your way that you haven't seen, just because, we've got the new Pixar movie coming out and you got to complete the list. So you got to do it. You got to take one for the team and you got to watch The Good Dinosaur.
The dinosaur-shaped bullet. I see it coming.
I'm sorry. It's on your list, so I guess I can't be blamed.
Most people have told me that it's just boring. Would you concur, or would you say it's actually bad?
I think it's a boring movie. I think it's gorgeous and I think it's beautiful, and I think you're probably going to be with it for the first 45 minutes or so. It's an hour and a half. First half of the movie, you're probably going to be with it and you're going to think, man, this is a cute little dinosaur and I'm having fun with this adventure, and this is not why does everyone think this movie sucks? And I think it's the second half where it doesn't kind of do anything. It just kind of out. It just kind of putters out.
Huh. So
I'm curious to know if you'll have the same perception as me. I'm going to try to stop reviewing it now so that I don't taint your perception of the movie. But this movie is quiet. It's low on dialogue, so it's very much a visual experience. It's not one of those movies you can watch while you're doing other stuff in the background, because it's there's dialogue in here, but there's not a lot, especially when it's just the baby and the dinosaur. There's really not a whole lot of stuff that gets said. Not that I can remember, at least, but it's been a couple of years since I've seen this. My memory is not super sharp on this. I thought it was a little slow, and for Pixar, it doesn't make sense. I don't think it's a horrible trash bad movie. I would say Cars 2. I'm not gonna
thank God, because I don't want to deal with Cars 2.
Yeah, I'm not gonna throw both middle fingers in the air or anything like that for The Good Dinosaur. It's just sleepy. That's really it, and that is still a pretty rough movie sin to commit, but it's sleepy for me. So The Good Dinosaur with Pixar, and that will be the last Pixar movie you haven't seen, right?
Yes, I will have seen until Soul comes out, but I'm sure I will catch Soul.
Oh yeah.
At some point. So yeah, that'll complete the lexicon, the gauntlet. The list will be done for Pixar. That is. I'm still working on Ghibli. I have I think The Wind Rises and Poco Yoko, or whatever his name is, the pig one. Anyone who's watched Ghibli stuff will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I've got a dozen movies I haven't seen. There's probably only 3 or 4 that I have seen.
I watched Tales of Earthsea, and I still don't understand it, and I also really didn't enjoy it, so I probably won't try Tales of Earthsea again. Just in case any Ghibli fans out there of Earthsea are wondering. Sorry. But cool, The Good Dinosaur. I will give it a check out. I'm curious to know what my opinion will be of this, since you haven't seen it in a while. What will my fresh perspective bring? But otherwise, that's the end of the show. We've assigned our stuff, and we're going out into the world to check them out. So Logan is watching The Devil all the time, and I might well be as well. He won't be watching The Good Dinosaur with me as I journey into the boring past. And otherwise, if you guys want to be here when we talk about it, be sure you click subscribe or follow on any of the platforms you listen to us on. That'd be YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, or SoundCloud. And hit like if you would. It really helps, especially on YouTube. They really dig the thumbs up. It's like YouTube's cocaine. Hit the thumbs up, and it's a huge bump for us, and we really appreciate it. To the moon and back. Otherwise, we appreciate you guys sticking around till the end of the episode, and we hope you have a great coming week and a great coming Christmas. The season is amping up. Stay safe and hope you have a great, jolly time of it. We'll see you one more time before the end of the year. But otherwise, Logan, let's say our final words for this episode.
So I said at the very end I would reveal the wall of shame.
Sure. Yeah.
Never seen Christmas Vacation, never seen a Muppets Christmas Carol, never seen Scrooged with Bill Murray, I've never seen a Christmas Carol with Jim Carrey, and I've never seen A Christmas Story with the Red Ryder BB gun. I've never seen any of those movies, and I'm really embarrassed, but I'm trying.
You've got to see Muppet Christmas Carol. And the only reason I have any chips to throw onto that hand is because Muppets Christmas Carol, for all of my formative years, I think it started when I was like 8. I don't know how young I was, but at some point we started this tradition in my immediate family, my brother and parents. We watched Muppet Christmas Carol every single Christmas Eve.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that was a family tradition for you.
Yeah, I didn't know. I don't know why or how it started. I think it's just my mom and dad never said we weren't allowed to watch it outside of Christmas, but each Christmas Eve, my brother and I were like, can we watch Christmas Carol now? And they're like, oh, I guess, yeah. And then we just kept doing it every year, and then it became a thing. So, yeah, Muppet Christmas Carol, I personally, it's the version of Christmas Carol that I hold the closest to myself, and I think it's a really good time. The Jim Carrey one's okay. So if you get it that one, I think you'll enjoy it, but I don't think it's anything spectacular.
Cool. The one I hold the most dear is the George C. Scott version. That's the one that I was raised on. But tell you what, dude, I'll watch the Muppet Christmas Carol and I'll report back on it next week. So
Sweet.
Come back next week and you can get both the Muppets, the Good Dinosaur, and the Devil All the Time.
And whatever else we decide to bring. That's the point of the show, and we hope you stick around for now on until forever. Yay! And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.